This is a tutorial for step 8 of FORCsensei. In the previous steps, we found our optimal varifork model and we've calculated the final fork distribution based on that model. And now we're going to plot the result. So in step 8, this is simple. We just say plot final model. And what this does is open an interactive plotting menu. So we can just look at our first option here, show final fork plot. We click that and our fork distribution has been plotted beneath. Now there's a number of options that you can work with interactively. For example, the number of color levels that you want to include in your color map. So for example, we could take that down to 30 and suddenly you can see much more discrete sequence of colors. I'll put that back to 100. You can see it updates automatically. Do we want to include contours in our plot? So maybe I'm going to add a contour at every 10th color level. If I click that, you can see it's added contours and so on. Now, depending on your data set, how many color levels you're working with, you'll need to play with these options to find a representation that works well for you. We can change the thickness of these contour lines simply with the slider. So I could go for thick lines, thin lines, and so on. I'm actually going to switch those contours off. I can also control the size of this window. So you can see that there isn't much happening below about BU is equal to minus 0.05. So I can set minimum, maximum values in the horizontal and the vertical. So my minimum BU, I'm going to set that to minus 0.05. And when I press enter, it will automatically adjust the size of the limits on the plot window and update everything. Now we've used an automatically generated color scale here that we think works quite well, but it may be that you want to emphasize certain details either in the minimum values or the maximum values, so you can rescale those. For example, if we rescale the maximum value here using this slider, we can pull that down and that resets the maximum color to a lower value so that you can see we've kind of saturated this region of the fork distribution here. That might be interesting if you're looking for certain features. You can do a similar thing with the minimum as well, where you can change that and limit the minimum values down here. Now, if you're happy with everything that you've done in your plot, you can simply click the button that says download plot. Now, if you're working on the cloud, that will save the image as an editable PDF on to the cloud, and then you can download it as we discussed in the previous tutorials. Alternatively, if you're working locally, then you'll get a file fork PDF that is a PDF version of the image we've created that's saved into the same location as FORCsensei. Now additionally, in both the local version and the cloud version, we've saved this comma separated values file as well, which for example you could open in Excel, and that's just XYZ coordinates in terms of horizontal position, vertical position, and the height of the fork distribution as a collection of triplets. So if you wanted to not use the fork distribution plot created by FORCsensei, but instead you want to replot the image in something like Surfer, then this is the information on that final model that you can just load in as a collection of effectively X, Y, Z values and replot the diagram. If you want to make any adjustments, for example, maybe you change the color level down to 50, you can then simply uncheck and recheck the download plot and it will update the saved version of the plot on your system or on the cloud to the new version. So once we've created our plot and we've saved it, we can now move on to step 9, where we consider plotting profiles through the fork distribution.